Hey guys, I'm going to try something a little bit different today, and I'm going to give you an explanation of this game that I played. You can see I'm about a 1200 ELO rating. Played this game on chess.com, and I'll let you know what's going through my mind. So I play the move e4, standard opening move. Lets me set up some openings such as the Scotch or the Ponziani. Ponziani is one of my favorite right now. If you've watched some of my videos, I show some fun games with that. But my opponent shuts that down by playing the move c5, setting up a Sicilian. So I develop my knight to f3, and they go ahead and play the move e6. Pretty standard stuff. Now, that does open up their dark squared bishop, and after some trades, I don't want their bishop to get access to this b4 square because they could pin my knight, and that could be pretty annoying. So I go ahead and play the move a3. They don't have access to this b4 square anymore. Pawn guards that. And then they develop their knight, and I push my pawn into the center to attack the center. They take my pawn, I take their knight, and then they develop their other knight. So here I decide to develop my knight and guard this pawn before I take off their knight on c6. They go ahead and push the bishop over here, attacking my knight. It's now attacked 2 times, but it's only guarded once. So I go ahead and take it off, trading there is best. Now they should have taken back here with their d pawn, because this gives them slightly isolated pawns. I'll be able to target especially this one over here in the future, this pawn on a7. What the computer wants is for them to take there, and then it wants me to trade queens. King obviously has to take, and they can't castle anymore, and then kick the knight away and continue the game from there. So that didn't happen in the game. My opponent took with the b pawn, and now the computer wants me to go ahead and kick the knight, but I wanted to develop my bishop, and so I overprotect this pawn right here on e4, but that would allow my opponent to play the move e5, and I can never kick this knight with this pawn until I could find a way to pick it off. But my opponent played the move d5, and so this does allow me to kick the knight right here. The knight can't jump forward anymore because my queen defends. It could jump here and we could trade, but we would get into a very similar situation where I could trade queens. So the knight's got 2 squares it could go to. It could go to d7, or it could undevelop itself back to g8. So my opponent plays the move knight d7. Obviously, you don't want to leave the knight hanging, but now that creates a threat on this pawn right here. And the computer wants me to defend it with the move f4. And normally you don't want to push kings in front of your pawns, or pawns in front of your king, but unfortunately for me, this bishop over here, their light squared bishop, is very bad right now, because if you develop it here, it's completely walled in, and I'd be able to attack it at some point in the future. Pawns right here are blocked because this bishop is blocked by these pawns. You'd have to move this bishop on c5 in order to open up some squares. And obviously you can't develop the bishop over here to a8 because a6, because I would just take it. So this bishop is pretty bad, and this bishop right now is pretty passive. So the computer says it's fine for me to go ahead and try to attack or set up like this. But I don't find that. I find the move queen h5, because now my opponent can't take, and I would be able to take back, so I do defend it, but it comes with a more subtle threat of this h7 pawn right here is very weak. And again, the threat is you can't castle currently. However, my opponent does castle, and you can see that bishop attacks h7, queen attacks h7, so that does unfortunately walk right into a checkmate. So make sure you're always watching out for bishops pointing towards the king. They're very strong. As you see in this game, I know I got a little bit lucky that my opponent did that, but I would have been able to continue developing from there. So if you like me explaining my games and my thought process, make sure you let me know so I can continue to do it in the future. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more.